The ROV's lights cut through 6 kilometers of Atlantic darkness and reveal what no human eye has seen since 1942. A flight deck stretches forward into black water, its wooden planking long dissolved, but the steel grid beneath perfectly intact. White painted lines still mark launch positions. Arrestor cables lie severed at their anchor points, cut clean as if the deck crew had just finished maintenance. The rising sun emblem appears through a thin layer of silt on the island superstructure, faded red against gray steel, but unmistakable. This is a carrier that launched aircraft against Pearl Harbor. It went down in a single violent moment, taking 800 men with it, and the ocean sealed it here without ceremony or witnesses. 83 years of pressure and cold have preserved what fire and salvage usually destroy. The wreck sits upright at a 15-degree list, bow pointing northwest. Stern collapsed, but the forward 2/3 nearly complete. No scavengers reached this depth, no current strong enough to scatter debris. What the torpedo did in 4 minutes remains visible in every buckled plate and blown hatch. The deck measures 220 meters from bow to the island structure. Launch rails still extend in parallel lines where dive bombers rolled forward for takeoff. Tie-down cleats protrude every 3 meters, their edges worn smooth by steel cables that once secured aircraft in rough seas. The forward elevator, a massive rectangular opening, descends straight through 3 decks into the hangar below. Its lift platform collapsed during the sinking, but the shaft walls remain square and true. Deck markings survive in sheltered corners where silt hasn't reached. A number 4 painted in white indicates the 4th launch position. Beside it, a smaller symbol, the maintenance designation for Aichi dive bombers. These were the aircraft that hit Battleship Row at 0753 hours on December 7th, the first wave that caught the Pacific Fleet at anchor. The same dive bombers that returned here 4 hours later, fuel tanks empty, some trailing smoke from American anti-aircraft fire. The island rises 7 meters above the deck, its angles still sharp. Observation windows face forward and to starboard. Inside, controls for the deck crew remain mounted to corroded panels. Signal lamp brackets extend from the port side, angled upward where they once flashed Morse to aircraft circling for landing clearance. A voice tube runs from the bridge level down through 3 decks, its brass opening now green with marine growth, but the tube itself unblocked. At the stern, the deck simply ends. The torpedo strike ripped away everything aft of frame 180. The brake line shows clean shearing on the starboard side and compression fractures to port, evidence the ship rolled as it flooded. Cables dangle into the void where the stern used to connect. No rudder, no propellers, no engine room, just empty water and a debris field 400 meters downslope. The hangar bay opens like a cathedral, carved from steel. Overhead, the flight deck grid filters what little light reaches this depth into a faint pattern across the floor. The space measures 160 meters long and 18 meters wide, tall enough to stack 2 zeros on maintenance lifts. Those lifts collapsed decades ago, their cables rusted through, but the rail tracks remain embedded in the deck. A single landing gear assembly sits isolated near the forward bulkhead. The wheel is still inflated, somehow, the rubber preserved by cold and pressure. The strut extends upward at an odd angle, snapped at the wing mount. Paint markings on the gear door identify it as parts from an A6 M20, the early model with fabric-covered ailerons. This gear never made it off the ship. Either the plane was destroyed during the attack on Pearl Harbor, or it was undergoing repairs when the torpedo hit. Tool racks line both bulkheads, their contents mostly gone, but outlines visible in rust patterns. A crescent wrench lies beneath one rack, its jaws frozen open at 12 millimeters. Fuel lines dangle from overhead distribution points, their connections still threaded despite corrosion. Small placards, maintenance reminders written in kanji, remain bolted beside each fuel station. The text is legible. Check line pressure before connection. Ground all equipment. Standard procedures that stopped mattering at 13:42 hours when the submarine's torpedo found the starboard fuel bunker. Crew passages connect directly from the hangar to living quarters on the deck below. No separation between operational and residential spaces. Men slept 30 meters from where high-octane aviation fuel was pumped and munitions were loaded. The Navy accepted this risk because carriers needed maximum interior volume for aircraft. Comfort and safety margins were luxuries larger ships could afford. At the hangar's aft end, the bulkhead shows the blast pattern. Steel plates peeled outward in concentric rings from a central rupture point. The explosion pressure wave traveled forward through this space at supersonic speed, killing anyone inside before the water arrived. Then the ocean rushed in, filling the hangar in under 90 seconds, equalizing pressure so fast that some interior doors remained closed, sealing air pockets that kept certain compartments dry for hours while the ship settled on the seafloor. The bridge sits at the highest point of the intact superstructure. Navigation equipment remains fixed in place. Compass binnacle mounted centrally, its glass face shattered, but the card still visible inside, frozen at heading 285 degrees. The ship was turning northwest when it died, probably executing an evasion pattern after the periscope sighting. Helm controls show the wheel locked hard to port. The brass spokes bent slightly from the force of whoever gripped them last. The engine telegraph stands at flank speed, its pointer rusted in position. Both indicators tell the same story. The captain ordered maximum evasion the moment the torpedo wake was spotted. But modern submarines in 1942 could put a Mark 14 torpedo into a target from 3,000 meters. Speed and rudder couldn't matter against geometry already in motion. The chart table occupies the starboard side of the bridge. Maps remain spread across its surface, held down by brass weights corroded to the paper. One chart shows the Hawaiian Islands, with a red line traced from a position 230 miles north of Oahu down to a launch point. Pencil marks indicate waypoints, fuel calculations, and the return course. These are the navigation plots from the Pearl Harbor strike. The chart beside it shows the Marshall Islands, home waters, where the carrier was supposed to return. Voice tubes connect the bridge to every critical station. Engine room, damage control, radio room, gunnery control. Each tube terminus bears a brass label indicating its destination. The radio room tube still holds a message cylinder, a small brass container that carried written orders when voice communication was too slow or too sensitive. The cylinder is sealed. Whatever message it contains hasn't been opened since December 1942. The ROV's manipulator arm lacks the precision to retrieve it without damage. Binoculars rest on the forward windowsill, their leather case rotted away, but the optics still intact. They face the direction the ship was headed when it sank. Not toward Pearl Harbor, not toward home, just northwest into empty ocean, following whatever orders the captain received before the torpedo ended all plans. The hull number appears on the bow, partially obscured by coral, but still readable through careful ROV maneuvering. A kanji character, followed by the number 5. Japanese carrier numbering from the 1930s places this ship in the 2nd Carrier Division, the unit that approached Pearl Harbor from the north, while the 1st Division struck from the west. 3 carriers in that division launched aircraft against Ford Island. 2 survived the war. This is the 3rd. Forward of the island. Superstructure. The ship's bell hangs from its original mount. Green with verdigris, but the casting still clear. The bell bears the launch date, a ceremonial inscription, and the carrier's name in raised characters. This single artifact confirms identity beyond any doubt. The name matches records of a carrier reported sunk by American submarines in early 1943. But the location was listed as 800 miles northwest of here. Either the war records were wrong, or the captain provided false position reports before the sinking. Personal effects scatter the crew quarters below the hangar deck. A sake bottle wedged in a bunk frame, its contents long dissolved. Uniform buttons bearing anchor symbols lie in clusters where fabric deteriorated and left only metal behind. A photograph, remarkably preserved in a sealed tin, shows crew members standing on the flight deck. The faces are still visible. Young men in work uniforms, squinting against sunlight that must have been blinding compared to this eternal darkness. Maintenance logs rest in a chart room adjacent to the bridge, their pages fused together by seawater, but the covers intact. One log shows entries dated December 6th through December 12th, 1942. The final entry lists a Zero fighter as requiring engine replacement, critical damage from anti-aircraft fire. The entry notes that parts were unavailable and the aircraft would remain non-operational. The carrier was heading to a resupply point when the torpedo found it. The damaged Zero is probably the one whose landing gear sits alone in the hangar bay, stripped for parts that never arrived. A signal flag locker near the bridge holds flags still folded in precise squares. Colors have faded to uniform gray, but the shapes remain clear. These are the same flags that flew during the Pearl Harbor attack, visual signals that coordinated the strike when radio silence was mandatory. They were stowed away for the return voyage, never to be used again. The impact point sits 5 meters below the waterline, directly beneath the forward fuel bunker. The hole measures 4 meters across, its edges folded inward, where the torpedo's shaped charge punched through hull plating, designed to stop shell fire, not underwater explosives. Blast patterns radiate in concentric circles across the surrounding plates, paint stripped away by the shock wave, steel dimpled and stretched. Inside the wound, structural frames show clean breaks. These frames, each one a vertical rib supporting the hull, snapped simultaneously when the torpedo detonated. The explosion didn't just penetrate the hull, it destroyed the ship's internal skeleton across a 6-meter span. The carrier lost structural integrity instantly. Upper decks began sagging toward the blast point within seconds. The fuel bunker above the torpedo strike exploded. Not immediately, but 6 seconds later, when the fireball from the warhead reached aviation gasoline vapors. That secondary explosion blew out the hangar deck from below, lifted the flight deck 5 centimeters off its supports, and sent a pressure wave through every sealed compartment in the forward half of the ship. Men in the crew quarters died from overpressure before water reached them. Blast scarring appears throughout the interior spaces forward of the impact. Pipes bent in unnatural curves. Bulkheads bowed outward. Hatches blown off their hinges and wedged into passageways 20 meters from where they were mounted. The explosion's energy traveled through the ship faster than men could react, faster than damage control could respond, faster than anyone could reach the radio room to send a distress signal. The carrier began flooding at a rate of 200 tons per minute. The bow dipped first, pulling the flight deck underwater at a steep angle. The stern rose, bringing the propellers clear of the surface for perhaps 30 seconds before the weight distribution shift caused the hull to snap at frame 180. The stern section sank separately, falling away and tumbling down the thermal layer into deeper water. The bow section, heavier and more intact, descended in a controlled glide, hitting the sea floor bow first and settling into the mud at a 15-degree list. 4 minutes from torpedo impact to complete flooding. The submarine's commander logged the kill at 1,346 hours, noting that the target showed no signs of launching aircraft or returning fire. A clean kill against a weapons platform that 9 months earlier had struck the first blow of the Pacific War.